the effects of counterintelligence by the FBI, by law enforcement departments across the country. But, it's one thing I took from this, that there's a gap here between the conversations that we have about the Black Panthers and the COINTELPRO and what's going on today. And what I'm here to tell you folks is that, in my humble opinion, the tactics that were used against the Black Panthers are still being used today. Still being used today. The tactics that were used against the Black Panthers were used against the anti-war protesters during the Bush administration. The tactics that were used against the Black Panthers were used against the 99% protesters. What happened to them? It was called COINTELPRO. The tactics that were used against the Black Panthers, in my humble opinion, are being used today against the Black Lives Matter individuals. And I see it. Do you see it? It's very, very relevant. And I would like to see either PBS or some other folks out there connect those dots. I mean, why don't they do that down at the Freedom Center? I don't want to go down to the Freedom Center and look at some damn slave pen. Okay, I did that a couple times. I'm over it. What I would like for folks to do today is to connect the dots. If we all think that COINTELPRO was so bad, then if it's happening today, why don't we do something about it? There are individuals who believe that Tupac and Biggie were the victims of COINTELPRO because even in the 90s, there was a fear that hip-hop would give birth to the rise of a great messiah. I mean, many of these documents from the Hoover-era FBI are now made available. We now know that the plan was to, at all cost, destroy the Black Panther Party movement. They used and employed all kinds of devices. They would send letters to spouses claiming that the male members were cheating. They introduced drugs. They helped to create the friction and then the gap between Newton and Eldridge Cleaver. I mean, the list goes on and on. In my heart of hearts, I believe those tactics are still being employed today. They're being employed against hip-hop. At least they were. Yeah. I believe that there were forces out there that believed that hip-hop was kind of like the second coming of the Black Panther Party movement. And at all costs, they had to make sure that it didn't give rise to another black messiah like a Martin Luther King. But you tell me, what do you think? So that's what I was watching last night. I did not watch the Oscars live. I did see many of the clips afterward, and I thought that Chris Rock made it entertaining. But it almost became a farce. It was almost like, Whoopi. There were a lot of black actors and actresses, and they were doing the skits, and they were all very, very funny. Some of them are more funny than others. But it just left me feeling as if, I'll be honest with you, it left me feeling as if it would have been a bigger impact if nobody black showed up whatsoever. I'm just saying. Now, you tell me. You tell me. James writes exactly my thoughts, and we can draw so many parallels to Black Lives Matter today. That's right. There are a lot of parallels between the Black Panther Party. Let me say this again. The anti-war movement. Now let me set you straight on this, because a lot of people believe that the government only uses those tactics against black people. But what I'm here to tell you is that ain't true. That ain't true. It ain't true at all. Anyone that challenges the status quo falls under the crosshairs of those same forces, even today. It happened during the Bush years. There were white anti-protest members who were surveilled by the FBI. They were surveilled by government entities. There were white anti-protester movements, right, that were infiltrated, in my opinion. And again, just Google this, folks. If you want me to, I can put you links up on Facebook, and you can check it out for yourself. So these tactics are employed whenever there are grassroots organizations that rise up and threaten to in any way challenge the status quo, period. Black, green, white, pink, fuchsia, polka dot. Your race don't matter. It's not about race. It's about haves and have-nots. It's about power. There's a power struggle. Now, I think that those that control the purse strings of power in this country are too sensitive. And I don't believe that the Black Panther Party in any way whatsoever was a threat to white folks at all. If you go back and look at their 10-point plan, one could argue that the Black Panther Party's 10-point plan is still relevant in 2016. Adequate housing that is suitable for human beings, okay? What do you think about? That was part of their plan. They wanted adequate housing that was suitable to house human beings. And if you go to some parts of this country where people are dealing with, well, I don't know, the effects of fracking and their water, the effects of lead in their water, one could argue that those demands still haven't been met. Adequate access to education, an immediate stop to police brutality. I mean, it's amazing how much of the Black Panther Party's 10-point plan, right, their demands, is still relevant today. It's still relevant today. How could that be? How could that be? Brent's right. He writes, divide and conquer. It is still being done. He's right. And there are black people, right, who I believe that serve as agents for the status quo. And if you're smart enough, all you got to do is watch them. You can see them. And they call into radio stations. They write letters to the editor. They try to have an impact in the media, on social media, and things like that to try to sway the public. Much like it was back in the day. They talked to one brother who was an informant against the Black Panther Party. And I don't recall the brother's name, but apparently he had stolen a car, and he took the car over state lines. Now, that's a no-no. Now you're talking about federal time, big time, right? Who wants to go to jail for a long time because you took a joyride in the car? So they had this brother go inside the Black Panther Party, right, infiltrated, and basically run back and send information back. I mean, Hoover was Hoover was one of them, and the whole time he dressing up like a woman with his boyfriend. I got nothing against homosexuals. Do what you do. All I'm saying is that some people would have looked at Hoover and said, wait a minute, you're the other. Meanwhile, Hoover in his position was doing that to black folks and folks like Martin Luther King. What I'm here to tell you, I'm going to say this one more time. This ain't a race thing, okay? Race is the tip of the spear, right? But there are white protest groups. What happened to the 99%, folks? That was a righteous endeavor. What happened to it? Think about it. Good morning, all. If you're just tuning in, I really appreciate you. This is Nathan Ivey Online. I've got more Chris Rock clips. I've got numerous clips. But first, I want to talk about Bill Maher. And for many years, I have enjoyed Bill Maher's show. He used to do a show on ABC called Politically Incorrect. And it was one of the shows that really wanted me to get into the talk game because I like the idea of mixing it up, debating, sharing ideas, going back and forth. And I used to really enjoy when he had a good mixture on the panel. I used to really enjoy that show. I wish they'd bring that back in some form or fashion. And I guess on some levels with cable news, I mean, Fox has the 5 and MSNBC, who I will not watch any of their programming anymore. I don't care how cold, how on it Rachel Maddow is. As a man in America, seeing what happened to Melissa HarrisPerry, the sister, she has a PhD in political science. For many years, she was doing a weekend morning show. I would watch it from time to time. What I appreciate about Melissa HarrisPerry is that she had a different perspective. It wasn't just because she was a sister. It was because on her show, much like with Al Sharpton, I used to enjoy Al Sharpton's MSNBC show. I know many of you didn't like that, or maybe you got a different opinion, and that's okay with me. But what I enjoyed about those shows is not necessarily just the host, but that there was a different spin on the news. There was a different opinion. You would hear different faces, and see different faces. And yeah, many of them were brown. Okay, many of them were brown faces. Nothing wrong with that. And I think that cable news needs that. Well, Melissa HarrisPerry has decided to walk away from her MSNBC show. Her show was preempted, and I never understood it. I'll be honest with you. I tried to find her show because I wanted to hear her perspective about the election. And I could never find the show. And MSNBC preempted the entire show, and they preempted a lot of shows with some kind of politics in America blanket coverage, which was boring as hell, with a lot of ugly, stale faces, pale faces, pace. I'm like, balding, ugly. I'm like, come on, man. Take a page from Fox News, okay? Put something attractive on television so people can want to watch this. These folks at MSNBC would never understand it. But she walked away from the show and said basically she felt like she was being used by MSNBC. And when people started to notice, where's Melissa HarrisPerry? They tried to put her back on the show this past weekend. She said, no, I'm not coming back. And I want to say props to her for that. Because a lot of suck MCs would have crawled back, groveling. Please, please, please. Backbone is so refreshing. I want to say this again. Where the hell are the men? I mean, there's so many examples of black females standing up, saying enough is enough, and challenging the status quo. Where's the brothers at? That's all I got to say. She says, look, I'm not your brown bobblehead. I'm not your brown bobblehead. That's what she said. Meaning that I'm not going to just be your brown face. She just shakes yes. Yes. Whatever you say. Yeah. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I hope that the good folks over at TV One, who in my opinion need to expand their news programming, that'd be great. They got Rolling in the Morning, and that's a great thing. I wish they'd do more. I think she'd be a great fit over there. How about the good people over at Black Entertainment Television? When are they going to do some kind of news programming? And they've done it before. But then, even if they did, would people support it? That's the other question. Well, I'll tell you, wherever she shows up, I will support her because even though I didn't watch the show all the time, I supported and appreciated that she was on the air and that she had a different perspective. And it's a shame that how things went down. She said, I'm not your brown bobblehead. That was a beautiful line. I'm not your brown bobblehead. Because I would love to have heard what Melissa HarrisPerry thinks about Bernie Sanders as opposed to Hillary Clinton, who, by the way, we got to talk about. As I said, Bill Maher. I'm going to play a clip from the good people over at HBO. They do great work. You should check them out. I have supported them for many years via cable, and I've watched Bill Maher's show. It comes on once a week on a Friday. I think his monologues are sometimes on point, and when he has a good panel together, I think he does a good job. Now, there is some explicit language in this clip. I'm not bleeping it out because I don't have to. It's the internet. I can play it now. And I want you to hear in its entirety what Bill Maher had to say. Now, this clip is a little bit lengthy. I don't know if we're going to play all of it, but not only do I want you to hear Bill Maher, but I want you to hear Dr. Michael Eric Dyson, who, that brother has been on point for so long. That brother has been on point for so long. And I don't know where he's headed with this. So let me set this up for you. And listen, if you've been checking out Nathan Ivey online, we've already had this conversation. Hillary Clinton was at a private fundraiser, $500 per plate, which because of racist economic patterns, a lot of black folks don't have that kind of money. $500 a plate? $500 a plate, man, that's big money for some people, okay? And this young sister, her name was Ashley Williams, and she challenged Hillary Clinton. She was holding a sign that says, I am not a super predator. And a lot of people are trying to say, oh, that doesn't matter. She said it a long time ago, Nate. It doesn't matter. You're taking it out.
Not just gangs of kids anymore. They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel.
Now listen, I'm not against Hillary Clinton. Don't get me wrong. I'm just giving you my opinion. This is one man's opinion. I'm not telling you who to vote for. You might decide to vote for Hillary Clinton. I'm just saying that it is righteous to ask these questions. It's fair to ask these questions. Do you still believe that there are super predators? Do you still believe that you should lock them up and throw away the key? And if you're the first lady, that's a very powerful position. Very powerful. if it